Hi there, welcome to this behind-the-scenes cloud-native skunkworks on what the heck is Copilot. Copilot has been getting a lot of traction recently throughout the community as an exciting way to increase your productivity, and I just wanted to show you how I use it and some of the features that I think are particularly useful. So first and foremost, as you probably know, Copilot works through your IDE, so it's a plugin, and that plugin ties back to GitHub through the API. It's a technical preview right now, which means you need to have authentication to access it. So on the left hand of my screen here, I have my VS Code, and on the right hand, I just have an example of the Copilot website. What's really powerful about Copilot is that it goes beyond just the basics of like IntelliSense or auto type head completion. So normally, if I've got some sort of type ahead, it would probably be able to tell me the variable, and maybe it would predict or be able to tell me a printf. But here we see that already Copilot is trying to figure out what I want to do with this. So let's give it some incentive. I'll say reverse string, right? What's going to happen is Copilot is looking to match that signature against the index of the thousands of GitHub repositories of this language where it can see people using reverse strings. And equally here, you can see it's already suggesting what it thinks I should do with that. And within, a few tabs, we have this ability now to reverse a string. So if I print this, we've got hello Alex in reverse. Now this is kind of gimmicky, and again, I could do something similar like, is prime, and it would generate me a simple way of detecting whether numbers are prime or not. In reality, is this what you'd be doing? Not really. What you would be using Copilot for is its contextual information on how to leverage it for implementing interfaces, how to use it for implementing anything that requires double-click values. And what I mean by that is, let's say you've decided a value name, but you also need to assign that name to either a metric, a label. It can infer that. So let's figure out exactly what I'm talking about here. I'm going to go ahead and grab the Prometheus client into my project here. And firstly, I'm just going to go mod init Copilot. And I'm going to grab this client in right here. What's interesting is I'm just using the off-the-shelf Prometheus Golang client information, and just going to follow it from the guide here. And you can see you've got your main handlers. So let's just grab that handler. I mentioned this ability to type ahead and to kind of predict the behavior that you want to implement. So let's create a metric. So get ints. From here, we're going to call prom auto. You'll see that it doesn't do everything. And what's interesting at this point is it is deciding to provide me with the signature for a new gauge. However, I haven't actually implemented the library yet. So this can be kind of confusing because you're implementing something that's not yet available to you through the IDE's GoVet. So let's go back and make sure we have this implemented. And that's one of the slight gotchas with Copilot, is it'll be suggesting stuff you haven't necessarily imported yet into your code, and that's no bad thing, but you've just got to be kind of cognizant of that. So back to what I was talking about with this idea of it being able to predict and infer meaning. You can see here we have now get_ints, which has been suggested, and again the help here of the number of ints returned by the getInts function, which is slightly sarcastic but useful in a way. And here we can set 42. So this has been really useful in the previous videos that I made because it's allowed me to really fire out a lot of that boilerplate code really quickly. The last thing I also want to show you is that for folks like me who work in a bunch of different languages, it's really amazing being able to just suddenly switch context from Golang to something like C. So again, if we come back to that example of, say, the primes, you can do this in any other languages. And you see already, even from my main.c, it's given me a bunch of suggestions, which is kind of interesting. They're not always perfect. Again, this suggestion is fairly useless, but it is trying to predict what it is that I am trying to write. I think that the final example I'll give you, just to show the continuity of this, is that if we create like a main.py, let's create our init function, get body from URL. And this is really where I see it coming into its own. It's like, this is quite complicated behavior that you're defining, and already it's able to figure out what it is I want. So again, if I want to print get body from URL, it hits Google straight away. So super powerful stuff, and I'm sure there's a lot more on the way. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was a useful introduction to what Copilot is in a very practical sense. It's not magic. It is just built upon the thousands of repositories available in GitHub with some natural language processing, some AI on top of that. It gets a lot of stuff right, and I'm sure it will get more powerful as it's trained throughout all the millions of interactions with individuals. I certainly will continue to use it because I see a lot of value when you're trying to get stuff done quickly, but at the end of the day, it's not magic, but it is definitely going to grow, and I'm excited to see what happens next. If you thought this video was good, please do like and subscribe. Look at the comment section. Please do add something in. I do read them, and I'm really happy to interact with anybody on any suggestions or feedback you might have. Thank you again.